The Renault Zoe, a small electric car which, if you think 66 kilowatts is not enough, offers a more powerful 80 kilowatt motor as well.
In ye olde days, there was a car called the Fiat 500, and it had a minuscule amount of horsepower. And then they made a sporty version with just a couple of horsepower more or something. But anyway, this is sort of like that. This is the Zoe with a bigger battery pack and with about 15 horsepower more. The French have apparently made a study. They did a study on electric cars, and specifically what it would mean if the entire French country suddenly decided to use electric cars overnight. And of course, that wouldn't really work with the infrastructure we have now, but it would work apparently if everyone had those smart things in their home. So a smart charging of the car, smart dishwasher, smart stove, and so on and so forth. So everything would know when to take the energy out of the infrastructure and when your car would actually give the power back to the infrastructure. And if that all worked, the power consumption would only go up by about 3%. So that is the future, I guess. Everything will be smart. It'll just take time to get there.
If I've lost you completely with my explanation, don't worry, I've lost myself as well. To make a long story short, the electric future is apparently quite viable as long as we build the appropriate infrastructure and somehow make batteries better and more environmentally friendly. I drove the Zoe a few years ago and it hasn't changed. It's still a cute little futuristic vehicle, which this time around features this quite dashing metallic purple. The limited equipment level is right in the middle of what you get, and it also allows you to choose this purple color. We're more interested in the engine under the bonnet. Renault says you get more power for pretty much the same range, while the motor will slowly replace the previous one.
Let's talk about the range first of all. Of course, this more powerful Zoe comes with the same bigger battery like the previous one I tested, the less powerful one. And I have to say the bigger battery is really nice, because when I picked this car up, I started with about 280 kilometers of range. They say 400 kilometers, but I think you would have to drive very economically for that, especially with this more powerful engine, even though it's not that much more powerful. But anyway, yeah, I started with about 280 kilometers and I did 74 kilometers so far on this charge, and I have half a charge left. Now you might think that's not very good, that's not very realistic. I have 138 kilometers left, but a large portion of that, about 40-ish kilometers, was on a motorway doing pretty much the speed limit of this thing, which is 140 kilometers per hour. I think it's limited to that speed due to consumption reasons, of course. Well, there's a BMW i3. That's a little faster than this, but still. Anyway, so yeah, that range is actually pretty good. So I've effectively used 140 kilometers of range by going on the highway, which of course electric cars aren't really designed to do, at least these smaller city ones. But yeah, that's good. I mean, having it pegged at 140 kilometers per hour, the battery holds up pretty well. The engine in this Zoe is a little bit more powerful than the one in the one I tested before, because you've got two versions. You've got the less and the more powerful one. Like I said before, it's not vastly more powerful. It's like 15 horsepower more thereabouts. And I'm not gonna say you don't really feel it, but it's not a huge improvement. But it is nice because most of all, you will feel this sudden power and increase in power when you're going about 30 to 50 kilometers per hour, for example, when you've got grip and everything, and you put your foot down and bloody hell. Yeah, it does actually press you into the seat. And of course, with that amount, with that speed, with that range, it's really best in a city where you want that power. Because, you know, when you're whizzing in and out of traffic, and I'm assuming, because this is a French car, that, you know, in Paris and such, it's even more important to have that instant power. Because I drove in Paris many, many years ago when I was much younger, and that was quite an experience, going around the Arc de Triomphe, and yeah, thinking you're going to be hit left, right, center, back, and even underneath. And in fact, every car there was pretty much dinged. So yeah, it's nice to have this extra instant power. But it's not a racer. Still, you can, in fact, surprise many a car that would otherwise think it can overtake you from a standstill. There's one little tiny problem with this car. I don't know if it's this particular car, but charging. And it's not a problem that you have to charge it for 30 years or something like that. It's a problem of charging it at all. Now, a few years ago, when I tested my first Zoe, I had a problem. I came home, I plugged it in, and after about 5 to 10 minutes, it tripped my FID. I think it's FID or FED, I don't know, the breaker. Anyway, apparently there was some kind of a thing that my breaker didn't like as far as grounding goes with that car. So, oh well, I took it to my colleague, and we could charge it there because he had some sort of it was some sort of a mechanic shop, I think, in the past, and it had those high capacity plugs. So now, with the less powerful Zoe that I tested a few months ago, I had no problem. I plugged it in, that was it. Not a problem. With this one, with a more powerful one, however, I have no idea why, because the battery pack is the same. I plug it in, and it suddenly tells me, battery charging impossible. What the heck? Battery charging impossible. So I look at the manual, and it says, you know, maybe you've set a timer for the charging. And in fact, I did. I wanted it to charge at about midnight. So I said, that's a bit odd. Why would it say battery charging impossible, like something is very wrong? Let me change that to immediate. So I set the charging to immediate, to start immediately when you plug it in. I re-plug it in, and it says battery charging impossible. So now I'm confused. Why is it doing that? And I go onto the internet, and I find out that this was a problem with the Zoes a few years ago. A lot of people had those problems, and apparently there's some sensors, and they don't like either the temperature or the moisture in the air or this or that. I don't know. And people had a lot of problems, and now apparently these problems are gone. But I'm telling you, they're not. So now this presents quite a problem. If you buy a car like this, you come home and you're like, let me plug my brand new car in, instead of, you know, filling it up with petrol, and then you find out that battery charging is impossible. So now you've got two options. Either install one of those fast chargers at home, which is, well, expensive, and two, not always possible. Or, option B, charge your car at a public charge port. But that's also not an option. What are you gonna do? Walk back home every night? No.
I have to admit my brain was at fault here again. It was not the car's problem, but that of the user, that is, me. Renault has explained the charger, which you can plug into a regular socket at home, is only meant for emergency charging. When you buy a Zoe, it's a very good idea to also have an actual home charging station installed, which won't give you problems. and is apparently not expensive. The base Zoe starts at just under 24,000 euros, while the test model costed 28,000 euros. And don't forget the monthly battery subscription charge.